Rome, and are men thinking about Rome every day, all day, every day?
So interestingly enough, I think most people think about Rome all the time and they don't really even realize it. So, for example, a lot of the words you use, like inauguration, is a good example of a word. Augury is actually the how Romans would look at bird signs and say, like, based on what the birds are doing in the sky today, should we attack Carthage? So the word inauguration actually comes from them
Whoa.
looking at bird signs and deciding what they should do from that. Even there's cultural things as well. So the idea of after you get married, carrying your wife across the threshold, it actually comes from when the first king of the Romans, Romulus, founded the kingdom. He founded it from, criminals and whoever else he could find in Italy, and they didn't have any women. So what did they do? Is they had a dinner and they invited this neighboring tribe called the Sabines to dinner. And during that dinner, the men actually kidnapped all the women and raped them. That's why it's called the rape of the Sabine women. So when you hear of the idea of carrying a woman across the threshold, it actually comes from a very, I guess, dastardly thing of how the Romans actually got their first wives. So a lot of what people deal with every day and a lot of our cultural things every day actually come from the Roman Empire. And I don't think people consider it because it's become so ingrained in our society.
Dude, that is so crazy. And here we are, another episode where, like, just everyone's taking chicks. We went from the fallen angels taking human women, and then, and now we got the Romans doing that. It's so crazy to me.
I got caught up in this TikTok thing he's talking about. Some girl I was dating asked me, how often do you think about the Roman Empire? And I gave her a legitimate answer, and that's what she was looking for. And then she screenshotted and made it a TikTok thing. But, like, I was wondering, I was like, why do I? Because she asked me, like, what do you think about it? I was like, they brought the aqua system, all this stuff, how it went down.
The aqua system?
Yeah, the aqua. Yeah, what's it called?
The aqueducts.
The aqueducts. See?
Okay, respect. I can't judge anybody.
Yeah, exactly.
I didn't even know what GNP was. So it is the GMP that.
Yeah, and I responded with that answer, and then she sent me that every girlfriend's asking their boyfriend, "Are you into Roman Empire?" And like a lot of men are answering with, "Yeah, I think about it at least once a week."
I think about it every day.
Are you serious?
Just passing through for some reason.
I don't.
The Roman Empire passes through my skull every day.
I guess the question is, like, there's a lot of different reasons it could be. And I think, part of it is a decline of empires thing. If you kind of look at where we are in society right now, we're in a society that's really pushing men out. In some cases, I guess, trying to make them decide they're women. I ran into somebody like that at the gym today, and I was very confused. It's like, I don't think there's really a place for men in our society nowadays, right?
I say that all the time. I say that all the time.
Right? Like, we're looked at like it's not okay to compete. It's not okay to win things. There's, everyone's a winner in some way, which is a little bit stupid. There's winners and losers in life. So I think what's happening is men are looking at historically, where was a time where I could, kind of change my stars, or I could do more, or I could be more. Or there was actually a place for me in society. And I think there's this whole matriarchy, patriarchy, battle that comes out in the public sphere. And I think what's happened is we've kind of overcorrected, right? We've gone from a totally masculine society, from a society that doesn't really prevent masculinity. And men are kind of looking every day, well, where do I fit then? Like what do I fit in? And I think that's where, if you look at something like the Roman Empire, it was a very masculine-driven society. And I think for a lot of men, they feel like they would have a place in that. I think empires are only as useful to the people controlling them. And I think a really good example of this as well is we've seen, the Secret Service may or may not have done a great job in protecting Trump or helping his MK Ultra assassin that we had recently. And we were talking about this on Union and the Unwanted a couple weeks ago. But then also, if you look at the Praetorian Guard were responsible for protecting emperors with the first Emperor Augustus. But what actually ends up happening is the third emperor, a guy named Caligula, who actually, he was born Gaius Julius Caesar Germanicus. Caligula was a nickname that means little boot or bootykins. So people that use the name of Caligula for that emperor don't realize it was kind of a funny name meaning bootykins. But he was assassinated by the Praetorian Guard, and they put his uncle Claudius in place to kind of be his puppet. So what ends up happening is they become the power behind the power. And I think you're seeing this now as well with what's happening with, will Obama endorse Kamala Harris or won't he? And then he finally does. And then they had that weird phone call that definitely was pre-recorded because they weren't actually talking to each other. So I think oftentimes you have this power behind the power that's existed through time. And you don't hear from them or see from them until they want something in history to change. And I think you're seeing that now here in America, whether it's, the Russian collusion narrative to push Trump out, because whether you like him or not, he wasn't great for the powers that be. You also see that with them pushing Biden in and now trying to push Harris. And I think that's what happens in empires. You've had this same power that's been kind of in the darkness or in the shadows throughout empires, and it's typically the same groups of people throughout time. You look at the banking families in the UK, and they step in when things aren't going so well, and then they step back into the shadows. And I think it's been that way throughout history.